This is the EPL preview show where we're going to talk about who's going to win the EPL, who's going to get relegated, some grab bag picks on some other future bets that you can take advantage of. And we're looking forward to doing this show every Tuesday and Thursday as the European seasons are finally returning. With me from WagerTalk.com, it's Pavlos Laguretos, who is on absolute fire, Nick Borrman, and Kevin Dolan, our favorite Irishman. Well, let's get right to it. And I'm going to have some picks on the show for Brian Power, who isn't on the show, but I asked him to give us his thoughts on these as well. And Kev, I'm going to go right to you. We might, as a group, we might collectively agree on who's going to win the Premier League. But let's go to you first. Give me your thoughts. Who wins this Premier League? Of course, the defending champions are Manchester City. Give us your thoughts.
No real surprise where I'm going with this one, Carmine. Do I think the gap's closed between the top teams in the league? Yes. Arsenal especially, we've seen them beef up that squad in the off-season, bringing in the likes of Timber, Havertz, Declan Rice especially. He's going to be huge for them. And that means now also that the Gunners can compete across multiple competitions in Europe. We've seen them kind of struggle in the Europa League as favourites last year because of that depth issue. So now they look a lot stronger, obviously. Manchester United made some good deals as well. So I think the gap's closed. And the other thing I'd mention ahead of this season as well is that Manchester City were arguably a little fortunate last year in regards to their injuries. Only Brighton had fewer players missing games than Manchester City did last season, while their top two rivals heading into last year, at least according to the books, didn't turn out that way. Chelsea and Liverpool, they were absolutely decimated by injuries. They ranked 1 and 2 respectively in that bracket across 2022, 2023. And they had almost 6 times the number of injuries combined missing games that Manchester City did up to the midpoint of March. So, Gundogan was sensational at the end of last season. He was City's top player in May by a fairly substantial margin. He really led that charge for them late coming back against Arsenal. He had 4 goals and 1 assist over May. He's gone now. Mahrez gone too, obviously. So City are potentially a little lighter. I know they brought in some players as well. But, with all that said, while I'm not rushing to the window to back this bet myself, Manchester City, they're just such a formidable team. They obviously won the treble last year. They destroyed Bayern. They destroyed Madrid. They won every available metric in the league by a country mile as well. 10.51 expected points better than Arsenal were last year, despite how close the title race was on paper. So even with the gap potentially closing, even with that injury regression potentially on deck for City as well, it's just very hard for me to see anyone else but City winning the league this year.
You look at the markets and it's minus 125. Some of these books do have prices on who will win the Premier League if you take Man City out of it. So essentially it is who is going to finish second if you're giving the title to Man City and Liverpool. Arsenal come in second at plus 160. And as Kevin mentioned, a lot of very good pickups for this team. They are definitely stronger. They just beat Man City in the Community Shield. That's 3 Community Shields in a row, I think, that they've lost Man City, but also 3 titles that they've won. So I'm pretty positive they're not really worried about that. Liverpool comes in at a decent price. I'm going to go to Nick on that one next. Guys, one little bit of business before we get right into who's going to win the Premier League this season is we all have up on our pages in the soccer drop-down menu an early bird special for the Premier League. It is normally $2.99 for the full season of Premier League, all 38 rounds, including 5% plays, any props, any futures. You can get that for only $199, $100 off. Grab that deal. That is a fantastic deal. $199, the early bird special. Liverpool to win without City is plus 225. And I tend to think when a team isn't involved in Champions League, that they have a much better chance in the Premier League if they have a quality squad, because they can manage their lineup so much better. And we saw Arsenal do it a couple of years ago where it wasn't until late where they kind of choked and finished 5th in the league. But Nick, give me your thoughts on this one. The funny thing is we're going to talk about relegation, but I want you to touch on who do you think finishes second if we're giving it to City. When I'm out with my friends watching some of these games and we're having some beers, I always say mix in a water. And this is what we're going to do with you, Nick. I'm on City. Kevin's on City. We're going to mix in a water because I think you're going a little out to left field with this one.
Yeah, now, obviously, City and Arsenal, clear-cut favorites for good reason. And, it takes a strong-willed individual to bet against either one of those. But I'm going to try to go on a limb here and give who I think might be the other team that makes at least a decent run. And listen, they probably at the end of the season won't end up winning it. That's Newcastle. They're 20-1 right now. They don't have the depth to get there at the end of the year. We saw that with Arsenal last year. But perhaps they can get off to a hot start before the competitions and the juggling of schedules and the Champions League gets really tough for them. Maybe they can get off to a decent start. And halfway through the season at Christmas break, they sit close to the top or at the top like we saw Arsenal last year. And maybe you can get then a buyback price on City or Arsenal better than they sit now. But I do like Newcastle to play well this year. I think the top four is another good finish for them. 20-1, though, I'm going to throw a few bucks on them to go ahead and win the league. They finished second in the Premier League last year in XG differential, plus 0.95 per match behind only Man City, which, as Kevin mentioned, was quite a bit ahead of everybody else, plus 1.33. Behind them, though, was Arsenal at plus 0.8, so they were ahead of Arsenal in that regard. Their defense ranked second in the league. According to XG, they allowed just 1.07 per match. They also ranked in the top four in basically all shots for and shots allowed, both overall and on target. They ranked second in expected goals per shot. Basically, that just measures the quality of their chances. So when they took shots, they were good ones. And they were the number one corner creating team, averaging 7.1 per match. So pay attention to that. They were a team you could make a lot of money on taking overs on their corner totals last year. A little bit of movement in the offseason. Lost Alan St. Maximin to the Saudi League. And then Chris Wood, though he really was never the player for them that we saw at Burnley or at Leeds the last couple of years when he was scoring double digits. But they've done a solid job at replacing, and I would argue upgrading. They brought in Sandro Tonali from AC Milan, Harvey Barnes from Leicester. Again, beating a Man City or Arsenal who are very deep will be difficult as this thing goes on, but I'm going to hope for a quick start. Maybe, our City and Arsenal aren't as sharp early on, and we can get a little bit of a buyback price on the big dogs later. But Newcastle 21, I at least think they're going to be in the top four, so I think it's given us decent value to take a chance.
Pavlos, where are you going? Are you leaning towards Kevin I, or are you looking elsewhere?
I just have to admit that, it might seem like I'm echoing you guys, but that's what it is. I mean, getting Manchester City at minus 125, it's a no-brainer. Yes, maybe they don't win, but right now, preseason, and with the squad they got, I don't really feel that they can be threatened by any other team unless they themselves somehow screw it up. Now, I think they are the most stable team. They have a very stable coach, if not the best coach in the world. They have one of the best, if not the best, midfielders in the world in Kevin De Bruyne, and same goes for Haaland. So they're a very stable team. I think now that they got the Champions League, they won it. They can be a little bit more, relaxed in a way. I think the minus 125 that we can find Manchester City right now is a gift. And if I had to go elsewhere, I'd go with Chelsea, guys. I think after a catastrophic season last year, I think they're meant for big stuff this season. But it's really hard for me to put some money on them, especially with Nkunku. They're a star signing. I just read this morning that he's going to miss 4 months. He's going to get a surgery. So a lot of moving stuff for Chelsea. But if I had to go away from Manchester City, I'd definitely back Chelsea at plus, 1,600, I think. I think that's a decent price.
Brian Power also likes Man City at a minus 125, so we'll mention that one as well. Guys, let's get into who gets relegated. And Pavlos, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Tell us who you think. There was a lot. The relegation battle last year went down pretty much to the final round of the season. But for at least for the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season, no one knew who was going to get relegated. I think we knew one team that was going to go. But after that, it was pretty much wide open on who was going down and who wasn't.
I went in the reverse elimination type of process. Now, I said initially I thought of Everton. Everton, they didn't really caught my eye last season. They had a really bad season overall. No transfers. They had injuries. To Calvert-Lewin was a sell of himself. Just a really bad season overall. But they did have a very good defense. And Sean Dyche is a mastermind at keeping teams in the EPL. He did so with Burnley for quite a few years. I don't think Everton are going down. Now, Nottingham Forest at plus 225, I really don't like that as well. I don't like that either because, the guy who owns them also owns Olympiacos here in Greece. So I know his story, and he spent a whole lot of money for various reasons. But anyway, I don't think this team is going down. A team that really caught my eye, and yesterday was at plus 275, today's at plus 250, so we're on a good side here, is Wolves. Now, Wolves, they lost several key players in the off-season. Their midfield, which was Joao Moutinho and Ruben Neves, gone. Raul Jimenez, who was, up until a couple of years ago, was their star striker, really good player, he's out. But, since his injury, he had a head injury a couple of seasons ago, and he was never the same. He was just mediocre at best. They lost a whole lot of players, but they didn't really get anything in return. They did bring back Matt Doherty as a right-wing back. He was very, very good with Wolves, but that was like 3 or 4 seasons ago. He went to Tottenham, didn't do anything. He went to Atletico Madrid, didn't do anything. Now he's back to where to the team that really promoted him and in the team that he excelled at. I don't really know what to expect of him. In the midfield, they got Boubacar Kamara, and they spent 50 million euros on Mateus Cunha to bring him from Atletico Madrid. I think that's a misfire. That's a stupid way of wasting your money. You could have spent that money on other players or split that money into 2 players, 3 players. Giving 50 million euros for a questionable striker or forward is just not really my thing. We just have to say that they had a terrible season last year. It was destroyed by injuries. They bought Sasa Kalajic from Bundesliga. In his first match, he tears his ACL. He's out for the whole season. He's going to be back this season, but still, the players that left Wolves and the players that came, there is a huge deficit in there. And you can't really mask the defensive problems and the offensive problems that they have last season because the Wolves had their defense conceded 58 goals last season. That was the 6th worst in the EPL. And they have players who don't really have a lot of experience. It's like 5 wing backs shaped into a back 4. So it's really not great. Their offense was the worst in the EPL, 31 goals. So I think they're cruising for a bruising this season. I think if they don't do any more transfers, they're going to be in trouble. So the price for me is very high, and compared to the other teams that have similar prices, I think Wolves at plus 250 that it is now is a great way to approach relegating side.
We're like 12 minutes into the show, and finally we have a disagreement here. Pablo says Nottingham Forest won't go down. I say they will go down. And I get it. Sometimes you spend money, but spending money doesn't equate to getting wins. Just talk to Chelsea about that, and they'll let you know. But you look at it, Nottingham Forest last year had one of the biggest turnovers as far as players they brought in, going from Championship to the Premier League. And this is a team that had like the 4th worst defense last season. We're in the relegation battle for most of the second half of the season. And it was only the last 4 weeks where they picked up 8 points. And with 5 of those points coming against teams in the bottom 10, where they saved themselves, finished 4 points above relegation. And I think they take the next step, and I think they return back to the Championship next season. So I'm taking Nottingham Forest to get relegated, Nick, and I'm going to you to find out what you've got.
2 years ago, the teams, the 5 teams that were bottom of the XG table that didn't get relegated, 3 of those were the teams that then became and got relegated this past season. So Leicester, Southampton were right there in the bottom of that, and deserve to go down. And if we look at this year's XG table, who were the bottom 3 teams? Nottingham, Bournemouth, and Wolves. So, Pablos is right about Wolves. They have a decent chance to go down. They don't have a striker. That's their problem. But Nottingham, what have they really done? They brought in Chris Wood, who I don't care about. He's aging. He hasn't done anything in a couple of years. Maybe he's their only option, so he might get up some goals, but he's not a guy that's going to move the needle and change that team. Anthony Elanga from United, obviously a young prospects, hasn't really had his chance to shine yet. So he could put something together and be good, but I think it's going to take some time. I don't see a young player like that just coming out there and immediately making a huge impact, especially on a team that really struggled to create anything last year. They were the second worst differential I mentioned already in the league, minus 0.72 per match, but they also created the fewest shots per match, and they allowed both the most shots and shots on goal. So those are big numbers to try to have to turn around. And the fact that they even stayed up was, I think, a pretty big miracle. Bournemouth, I'll say at least to them, credit, they're trying to keep their way up. They've done a lot of transfers, unlike Wolves, as Pavlos mentioned, who spent all of their money, a lot of their money on one guy. Bournemouth has spent similar money, but on 8 or 9 guys. So they're at least trying to do it in a different way, and I'll give them that credit. But I don't like anything Nottingham's done. I don't like how they finished last season. I don't like any of their numbers. So plus 275, they're my favorite of those 3 to go down this year.
Kev, I'm going to go to you next. Before I go to you, I just want to mention, guys, these specials are up at WagerTalk. You can get a month free of Plays All Access. 3-month package is $5.98, which is the price of 2 months. So you're getting the 3rd month for free. And there's another deal where you can get 21 days for only $198, which is the same price as 2 weeks of All Access packages. So you're getting a free week of All Access as well, too. 21 days, that comes out to about $9 a day. With that said, Kev, who's going to get relegated this season as far as you're concerned?
I think Wolves are in tremendously bad shape ahead of this year. I believe they're really going to struggle to find form. And this isn't their first rodeo in this situation either. I backed them to go down last year as they ranked 2nd from bottom in XG in the 2021-2022 season, 4th from bottom in expected points as well, with all of the other bottom 3 teams beneath them going down. They sat bottom of the table last year on December 1st also. So is there another, Julian Lopetegui to potentially ride in and save them should they start to flounder this year? No. So, yeah, I think Wolves will go down this year. And I still kind of like the price, even though it's collapsed a bit.
All right, there you have it. And Brian Power will be return on Thursday. Quick and easy for him. Fulham to get relegated is his play. Guys, let's go into a grab bag section. Let's look at anything across the futures market that you think could possibly happen. I'll mention Brian's. He likes Alexander Isak to go over 15.5 goals scored. That's the total that's been set for him. I'm going to talk about one that I like, and I think Aston Villa, top 6 at plus 200, has a very good chance to get there. I'm a Unai Emery fan. He came in halfway, I think, with about 10 or 12 games left in the season. Had the team playing extremely well. They pick up Pau Torres, very good defensive player for that team. I think they take the next step up. And when you look at top 6, we want to give, obviously, you look at 4 teams that you think are going to be there, which are City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United. But then there's a race for those other 2 spots. And yeah, you've got Newcastle in there. You've got Chelsea in there as well, too. You've got Brighton in there. But I think the upside with a plus money team is Aston Villa. So I'm going to take Aston Villa to finish top 6 at plus 200. And then I'm going to go to Pavlos to see what you've got as your grab bag futures play.
I'm going to take Arsenal's Gabriel Martinelli to score over 10.5 goals. So we just need him to score 11 or more goals, and this bet is a winner. Price is minus 110 at DraftKings. I'm really high on this play. It's I haven't loaded it yet at my page, but it's going to be at least 3%, maybe 4%. There are several reasons why I like Martinelli to go over 11 goals this season. First of all, he had a breakout season last year. He scored 15 goals and dished out 5 assists in 36 EPL matches. A vast improvement from his tally in 2021-2022, where he had 6 goals and 6 assists. Now, he's a very talented player, just 22 years of age, in his 5th season with Arsenal. So he's getting there. He's getting the experience that he needs. He's getting the playing time that he needs. And one other reason why I love this over is the fact that Gabriel Jesus, their starting striker, is going to be missing for the first, I think it's at least 3, 4, 5 weeks. So that's more touches for Martinelli, more goal scoring opportunities. Taking Gabriel Martinelli to score at least 11 goals at minus 110 is a gift. So again, it's going to be like a 3% or 4% play for me. I'm just giving it out here so everybody can get it and bet on it, because I think the price or the line is going to change, in the next couple of days. So that's where I'm going with Martinelli to score over 10.5 goals in the entire season at minus 110.
Nick, give us a grab bag play.
Sure, I'm going to go with Brentford plus 200 to finish top half. We know the separation, Carm, as you mentioned, from the top 4 teams for the rest of the league. And even though the top maybe has shrunk, maybe Man City and Arsenal aren't quite as far ahead. There's still a big gap between the top half of this table and the bottom half of this table. We look at the final positions last year. Brentford finished 9th on 59 points, 7 ahead of Fulham, who were 10th with 52 points, and Palace was the next at 45 points in 11th place. So you're talking about a 14-point gap from them falling down 2 spots to be in the bottom half. Palace was also, if you look at goal differentials, -9, Brentford +12, just to give you another idea of kind of the separation of those 2 teams. And XG showed a similar position, actually had Brentford a little higher, +0.18 per match, ranked 7th in the league. And the name of their game last year was quality. They finished as the team with both the best expected goals per shot average and the lowest expected goals allowed per shot average. So when they took chances, they were good, and they didn't allow many good ones. So the question is, are there 2 teams below them that are going to make a significant climb to possibly overtake them from being in the top half? I don't think so. And getting 2-1 in the money to not have that happen, I think is very, very good value. So I like Brentford plus 200 top half finish this year.
All right. Like it. Kev, I'm going to finish with you. I know you absolutely love Italian managers, and this one has one of my favorite managers, this team. So tell us what you got as your grab bag play.
This is the only other future I'm on for this season, the EPL. That's Brighton to finish in the top 4 plus 400. I went back and analysed at a quiet summer, as I said. So I decided to go back and analyse the last 4 seasons in the Premier League to try and find any patterns, not only study regular XG, defensive XG and so on, but how that applies, the road form, obviously important for teams to be able to generate points away from home, not just at home. What I ended up noticing in that, especially in terms of the top 4 market, was that second half of the season offensive XG was the single most accurate metric in terms of predicting the top 4 finish in the league. Defensive XG had barely scraped, a 50% hit rate. Second half of the season, road form was around 42% as well. But offensive XG from January the 1st in the season prior had an accuracy rate of 75% the following season, predicting teams to finish inside the top 4 over the last 4 seasons. So short sample size, obviously. If I had more time, I would have went back even further. But as Ralph Michaels always points out when it comes to trends and angles in the NFL, the main thing to consider is, does it make sense? And I obviously believe this one does. You're looking at teams who get offensively stronger, create more chances as the season wears on. And no team created more chances up top over the back half of last year than Brighton did. 51.82 XG across their final 23 games of the season. That pushed Manchester City in the second spot with 49.42 according to Understats. So, Caicedo potentially out the door at Brighton. That's obviously not ideal. He's a phenomenal player, but, Italian managers, Carmine, what a job De Zerbi has done since coming into the club last September. And a plus 400, look, it is a task, obviously, but I love the way Brighton play, and I'm quite happy to see them put a best ever performance in this season and grab one of those Champions League spots.
Guys, we're going to be back on Thursday. Brian Power returns to the show as well, too. We're going to look at some EPL games to kick off the opening weekend of the Premier League and European soccer in general. For myself, Nick Borrman, Kevin Dolan, and Pavlos Laguretos, this is Stoppage Time. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck with your wagers.